Our first decision is the most important. Your choice of image could be the one decision that makes or breaks the color study. It's that important. I'm going to use the examples of my most recent study. Here we go. In choosing an image, I look for challenge first. How many images do I think I can create from this one still photo? Is this image something that I like in the first place? How can I be certain of my choice? First and most important is the idea that the image you are going to use should challenge you. What do you look for? In this image, there were some major obstacles to consider. The orbs are floating and have no connection to a surface. This could make placement or grounding the subject of the image difficult. The second was the ocean that sits beneath the orbs. Can it be used partially or eliminated altogether? Sure. It's just another element in the photo and can be used or not. How about the sky? A little more difficult, since the sky is filled with high contrast clouds. And the orbs themselves? The big problem is that they are metallic and therefore reflective, and that can cause problems with the editing, unless you adopt the first and most important of my steps. Step 1. Choose the image that you like, one that inspires you, one that you have decided has potential. How do you evaluate the photograph when you don't have an idea where you're headed? The answer is simple. For the most part, evaluation is more a feeling. A rule of thumb is to think back to step 1. How comfortable are you with the choice of the photo? Have you given any thought to a color theme or a certain palette? Do you have plans for the images you will create? Think about this. If you have a theme in mind, color, kind of images, style, what is your intent? It's perfectly all right if you aren't sure. I do these studies precisely to find the things that come to my imagination as I work. That is the joy of the study. If you have a client or are going to use the images you create for a project, rethink your position and forget about the constraints a deadline or expected outcome will impose. The whole point of the study is your discovery process. It is more valuable to you than you might think. Allowing yourself to relax, find things in the image or in the process that are unique or unexpected. In doing this and making decisions step by step, you discover the image's potential is what you decide it is. Only your thinking and your software decide the limits to be imposed on what is potentially possible. Here I added only a hint of color at first. I wanted to see what the cloud's reflections in the orbs would do with a simple tint. In doing so, I saw the direction of the orb's reflection toward the top right rear. That gave me a clue. Do I use the sky more directly than I might have if, say, the sky was bright and blue? Here we see the result of a blue sky. The reflections are brighter. The dark coloration in the clouds is less pronounced. The sea has more color in reflections, too, and the surface waves are more evident. Now is the time to begin changing colors and saturation based on what I saw in the blue sky photo. There was enough contrast that the first steps of major changes could begin. At this point, your imagination will begin to tell you what might work or what might not, but the only way to know for sure is to do it. First, I used a pencil sketch effect to outline everything and looked for what the strongest points were. The orbs and the sea surface were the focus, so I emphasized those lines first. I then began changing the light of the photo. I used light effects to deepen the shadows. Then I turned up the highlights and lowered the fill light to get the moody feel. Then I used another highlighting effect to add yellow neon to the lines that were now exaggerated by the pencil sketch and the shadows. At this point, I inverted the coloration and the entire scene changed completely from the blues and yellows to intense browns, reds, and blue-black. I then lowered the intensity of the neon and lowered the saturation and saw that the whole field had become somber with the exception of the sea surface, which now began to glow. I once again raised the feel of the light by introducing another layer of the yellow neon. And in this last example, I changed the light settings to include more depth and heighten the red end of the coloration. What would you have done? Begin with a completely different color scheme? After all, that's the point of the exercise. And now the last of the 3 steps. The magical crop. Cropping is one of the most essential edits of all. Everything hinges on how you present your image from points of view of geometry. But not only that, images have their own way of insisting that you pay attention to what they can be. For the last part of the exercise, I have slightly recolored the sea in the image and made some lighting choices. I added a background blue tint and then moved the lighting controls more carefully via curves. I finished with the basic lighting final touches, which usually involve highlights. The shadows were also increased in depth. There's not much to really explain here. Any of you who have cropped a photo to eliminate something unwanted have probably done that on your phone. But here we are going to show the effect of the proportions of the image as a result of your crop. The first example is a square, or a 1:1, which is the format for Instagram. Squares are great and they can be very interesting to work with. They are a bit more challenging because it is easy when composing to split an image in half, or bifurcation. This is not usually great, but it depends on your photo. Here only 2 moons are captured and the sea is almost up to the halfway point, where it would be bifurcated, but we stop short of that to the 1/3 point. You can see from the example how easy it is to bifurcate. The second is a 16:9, the format of most computers and televisions. Plenty of room for composition, and here the sea is completely removed and the sky sets the background tone for the 2 moons. Next is an offbeat shot where the larger moon is cut in half but the placement is thirds. The small moon becomes the focal point, the sea and the background of violet are really working together. This is an offset shot. Now we have the fourth example, a 16:9, but the top of the moons is sheared off, reducing the clouds, and the sea takes on the main feature and also exaggerates the brilliance of the bottom halves of the moons. Again, we have cut the smallest moon in 2, and this is a trick of perspective, where it seems farther away because of the cut. Fifth, we have an offset shot where the clouds and sea are the focus of the shot, most especially the clouds. For a small offset shot, it is dramatic in that the moon is very low in the sky and feels calming. Sixth, we have another offset, this one sized for older televisions at 4:3. Again, we have the moon in order to make the shot coherent. The colors generated by the effects we used are clearly shown on the moon's face. Last, we have my final edit of the result, and it is 16:9, shows all the moons and the sky and sea are at almost even levels, the sky only slightly taller. I chose this as the final because it includes all the elements of our edits, shows the moons completely, and the sea is brilliant with the colors of blue and yellow and is juxtaposed with the dramatic violet and black sky. Any of our examples could be a final. And this is the result of our color exercise. We chose a difficult photo to make us test our ability to utilize its potential. We then evaluated the photo and found enough workable traits to continue and make our colorations as we wished, according to how we felt and what the software could accommodate. And last, we cropped and framed the resulting image so that it felt like it could be hung anywhere. Your task now is to continue making edits of this kind for all kinds of images. Your results will be yours alone. There is no right or wrong here. You will have learned that all images have potential if recognized and allowed to be brought forth. You will have used your software to the best of your ability and imagination, and this is critical to how you see your future work. Believe it or not, for this exercise I only used Picasa 3 for all of the editing. It performs very admirably. Then you learn the importance of cropping, how your image reacts to it, and what you see when you decide the final cut. Thank you, and please continue watching as I present images that were done in the exercise, each with a small note. Thanks, and come and visit me at jimgleinsarts.com. In this video and the following images, you will recognize many of them for the color study. Note that the effects used in the video processing are very alike. In the next video coming soon, I will be discussing two popular editing programs, Microsoft's Clipchamp and the Filmora editor from Wondershare. We will discuss types of effects from zoom through cartoon and a lot in between. I will show you how some effects work when others don't. I will make a short video from segments and demonstrate the fun and the frustrations of entry to mid-level suites. Later on this year I will go over details of Pinnacle and why some love nonlinear editing and others loathe it. Have you enjoyed seeing the number of images that I produced during my color study? I sure have. There are some times that editing produces work that transcends the experience. In this grouping there are a couple that really stand out for me. If you have had a great time learning during your editing time, it gets better when you have a surprise come your way. Here is one image that was so odd and yet so real to me. It is entitled, "But Where Were the Crew?" Colors in soft sea green with plum walls show a man standing in front of a large window. The entire base upon which he stands is tilted at about a 20-degree angle. He stares out into a void, seeing something we cannot. The sense of oncoming panic is in your face. I don't quite know where that came from, but it's unexpected and somewhat stunning. And it was a simple edit, and I could not deny what it felt like to me. Art is not always gentle. Another that came from the exercise is for me a confection, and here it is. Entitled, "It's on 11, Man." A cat rock guitarist stands in front of his Marshall stack, known for having a volume knob that goes all the way up to 11. His coloration from the lighting makes him all the more endearing. As a musician, I personally love this. Again, thank you for spending time with me, and if you have any questions or have something to share, please use the contact tan on jimgleinsarts.com to connect with me. I'm a guy that doesn't quit until he gets an answer, so we'll solve that problem together.